Stamp Act. The stamps are acting in a play. That's not true. The Stamp Act is a law. A law is passed in regards to stamps. This is New Hampshire. Some people reacting to this new law. As you can see, they're very happy. Just putting a coffin, if you look on the left, pulling that away. You have a man on a pole. He's having a great time. No, these people are not happy. They are quite irate. And the Stamp Act causes a lot of problems. So, we've looked at French and Indian War. Lots of money. A great deal of money because they're still French. So the French and Indian War cost the English government a ton of money. To get that money back, as we've mentioned, taxes. Taxes are the best way for a government to raise money. The Stamp Act is a tax. And it's a tax on a number of things. It's a tax on newspapers. So if you sell a newspaper, then there would be a stamp on it. And every time that you sell a paper, you have to give the government a portion of that money. So if you look, the Stamp Act duty, right here, we have a stamp, and April 18th, 1765. That's, of course, the day after my birthday, so all of you should be taking note. So every newspaper is being taxed. Every legal document is being taxed. So if you're getting married, you need a legal document. If you are going to court, you need legal documents. So every document, legally, will also be taxed. And on this one, it's 5 shillings on this stamp. So these two legal documents, they're mostly hurting people that are businessmen, people that have certainly the power to go to legal matters. Newspapers, everyone reads newspapers at this time. It's the way to spread information. You have playing cards being taxed. So regular people that like to play cards, their playing cards are being taxed. Dice is being taxed as well. So it's not taxes that are just hurting the rich or hurting the poor. It's really spreading out anger across the socioeconomic classes. And the goal is for each one of these, if you sell some dice, and maybe it's a shilling, of those, that money will add up. So how do the colonists react to this news of these new taxes? Well, they initially get the news on the newspapers, ironically, which are now being taxed. So they get word from England that these new taxes will be imposed upon them, and namely the goods that they're buying. And understandably, they are upset. The colonists are quite irate, peeved, perturbed as to these taxes that are being put upon them. They, as far from a diverse reaction as being angry as this man, saying, look, I'm very angry, to these people who are carrying a tax collector as effigy. Effigy, great word. So this is not actually a tax collector, it is more a scarecrow who's dressed up to be like them. You can burn a scarecrow and not have much people angry as you as if you actually burned a human being. So in history, you express your anger by displaying someone in effigy. It's essentially a mannequin. So people are upset. And namely, they're upset with Parliament. Now, we're going to backtrack a little. Who the heck is in charge of England in the first place? So we have the king. Everyone knows we have the king. Wonderful. The king is in charge. However, ever since the early 1700s, and even much prior to this, there has also been Parliament. Now, Parliament is made up of 2 houses. As our government today is, we are made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Parliament was made up of 2 houses, and the first one was the House of Lords. As the name implies, these are lords. They are landed gentry, so they're all gentlemen, very wealthy, and they all have some sort of title. It is hereditary, so you don't get elected into this position. You are born into it. So if you are the Lord of Plymouth, the Lord of Cambridge, then you always have a seat in Parliament, in the House of Lords. The second house is what's known as the House of Commons. These men are actually elected into their positions. They're all quite wealthy. There's not a lot of them that are elected there, but they're elected by landowners, so people that are also wealthy and own land. Normal people do not vote for their parliament leaders. In most cases, most people have never met their people in parliament. But what Parliament is doing is namely with business. The purpose of Parliament was to prevent the king from imposing taxes on the people that were not favorable. And Parliament is there to namely look out for the interests of people. Certainly they don't particularly relate or even interact with a lot of common people, but they have more in-touch ideas than the king does. So the whole point of Parliament is to look out for people and have their best interests in mind. Now, the colonists are upset about this because they, A, don't think their interests are being looked at, and B, even though many colonists would never have been able to vote for a member for the House of Commons, there are still a significant number that could have. And as an American colonist, you have no representation. There is no representation for you in Parliament. And when there's taxation without representation, well, people get upset.